Above the dome, Mars, after the direct charge destroying the laser defense system, finally entered inside. Below, after the tremor, Jinbei saw the bird and could not understand what kind of monster could emit such terrifying haki. He quickly came to call Zoro to leave immediately because the battle was over. However, at this moment, seeing leopard Lucci still standing firm not falling, Zoro all the more refused to leave. Indeed, a leopard's life must fight to the very end, otherwise life shows no respect. Suddenly the urging voice of Sanji resounded again, telling the old man to quickly bring that heavy lump back. Finally, with no other choice, Jinbei had to lock Zoro to leave, declaring he had already won. He apologized to Lucci for having to do so, then began to use Fishman Karate. A technique called Gawara Shuto 5000 brick hand was unleashed, making the trees there cut apart, pushing Lucci back. Suddenly at this moment, when Lucci was sitting breathing heavily, Mars appeared asking where York was, making the leopard extremely surprised. On the other side, although seeing the strange monster, Jinbei still did not stop but continued leaving to regroup with everyone. At this time, Lucci said York was still tied in the control room located on the 4th floor of Building A. The two who just ran off were the pirate hunter Zoro and Jinbei, the Knight of the Sea. 5 Straw Hat members were still here with 2 Vegapunks. They were preparing to escape through the back of the laboratory. Also, there were 85 CP0 agents and 4 Seraphim imprisoned in the basement. Lucci further emphasized there were still 6 minutes before Vegapunk's message was broadcast. Hearing this information, Mars praised the leopard for doing very well. No further questions. Suddenly at this time, Lucci spoke again because there was one last matter. His comrade Kaku was seriously injured, still in the control room. Lucci earnestly pleaded with Mars to spare Kaku, but Mars said that was impossible. Insects sometimes would still be crushed even if we had no such intention. Below, Luffy was joyfully greeting the giants because it had been long since meeting. More than 2 years, both captains almost did not recognize Luffy anymore. They were curious because in Elbaf there was a legend about a god. How did Luffy know that form to transform? It resembled so much, even clothing, outfit, everything truly surprising. Luffy hearing this understood nothing, wanted to talk next time. On the other side, Saturn, seeing the combination of sun god Nika and the giants, was extremely displeased. For Brogy and Dory, they viewed those elders as monsters no different than those in Elbaf's forest. Luffy hearing this advised now was not the time to fight but to escape from here immediately. Dory understood because he had already heard Sanji say earlier. He instructed that when meeting Luffy, then convey the group would regroup behind the island. Brogy and Dory said they had read the news in the paper, so came here to help Luffy escape. In the paper it said Luffy's group was surrounded by Marines because they were holding Vegapunk hostage. Luffy, upon hearing this false accusation, could not help laughing absurdly. Looking at the current overall position, Nami's group was still on the lab floor preparing to regroup and use the jet booster to launch the ship straight out to sea. While Luffy, Sanji and Bonnie were still on the way heading to the ship Elbaf Legend. At this moment, Dory took out his horn and blew to signal his crew. When the horn sounded, all crew members knew both captains had found Luffy, so would set sail immediately. Their only goal was to rescue the Straw Hat crew. Moreover, marine battleships had no treasure to plunder, so no attachment. At this time, the Wild Boar Elder also discovered the giants had signaled retreat, so wanted to block them. He even declared his roar would shatter their dream of escape. Finishing his words, he roared a terrifying sound that blew away buildings and trees nearby. This roar also emitted a terrible haki wave, making the weak soldiers at the coast collapse, foaming at the mouth. Inside, the scars and eyes of Luffy were also blown away, shocking both captains, worrying greatly for his strange body. Quickly, Dory drew his sword to hold everything from flying away, or else could not be found. So Luffy used his legendary scars that made his name to carefully paste them back in place. Brogy and Dory, seeing Luffy's body now, found it very funny but much stronger than before. They were also curious why that wild boar emitted a roar with Conqueror's haki. Luffy explained that was one of the bigwigs of the government. Warkari hearing this declared he would not allow Luffy to return to original state by cutting into pieces. Finishing his words, he spun, charging, turning 2 tusks into swords, attacking. Then the 2 captains immediately used Sun Shield to block. Warkari could not understand what strange fate caused them to know each other. He also asked Brogy and Dory if they knew who Luffy was. Hearing this, both captains without hesitation said Luffy was their friend. Finishing the words, both used the move Skyle to spit, blasting Warkari far away. Saturn, seeing his comrade like this, then declared he would erase the giants from world history. When he spat those poison-filled balls, Luffy had already pulled a coconut nod painted into a baseball bat. A number 56 cap was also made to match a player. When the balls flew, Luffy swung a beautiful spinning strike, knocking them all back at Saturn, causing an explosion. Suddenly from behind, the crew urged the 2 captains to leave quickly because the flames were spreading. Luffy also told them to leave fast because those monsters were not easy to defeat since they were immortal, fighting endlessly without dying. Hearing this, the two captains also quickly left because they had never heard of a race with such bizarre power. On the other side, brave Usopp was directing his juniors to pull the Sunny out, making everyone annoyed because he only talked, not helped. Nami also called Jinbei and Zoro to quickly come regroup to depart. But at this moment Jinbei's energy shoes had run out, so he simply ran on foot. On the other side, Frankie's group had reached the ship Elbaf, however vice admirals were already waiting, blocking their retreat. Turns out those vice admirals came here mainly to deal with Bonnie. On the other side at this time, Sanji suddenly felt an ominous premonition something bad was coming. Somewhere secret inside the lab, Vegapunk's message was still waiting for time to be broadcast. York was still noisy, shouting endlessly, wanting Kaku and Stussy to unlock her cuffs to escape. Suddenly Mars appeared asking York where Vegapunk's secret broadcast room was. York, seeing for the first time a monster truly speaking human tongue, was terrified, begging for her life. Meanwhile, outside the battleship, Marines asked what injury Kizaru had so they could treat him. But he said his wound was deep. Let me lie here to rest. Suddenly at this moment, below the scrap heap, the giant robot began to move, calling the name Joy Boy. It began drawing its spear, moving outside. Suddenly from afar, Marines at the northeast coast discovered something larger than giants had just appeared, even striding through flames unaffected. It was the ancient robot that had slumbered for hundreds of years, now murmuring an apology to Joy Boy.